is Justine Wagner. I am the program manager for the North Olympic Peninsula APEX Accelerator here in Washington. We serve Clallam and Jefferson counties. So we're out, on the whale tail of Washington, if you're looking at Washington State. We have had our program here for about 3 years. The program in Washington State has been around much longer, and myself and Jennifer are both with the North Olympic Peninsula APEX Accelerator, but we are very happy to be working on this series with Alicia, who is with the Washington State APEX Accelerator and serves the greater Spokane area. Alicia, do you want to say hi?
Hey everybody. So fun fact, our program has been in Washington State since 1985. I serve 11 counties over here in Eastern Washington, and I'm happy you all came.
Thank you. And we are grateful today to have guest speakers from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and I'll introduce them in just a minute. Like I mentioned, if you have questions, please feel free to ask throughout. And those one-on-one advising sessions can be set up at the end of the presentation if you'd like, or via email at a later time. Jennifer and I's contact information I will share here in just a moment, and we'd be happy to help get you to Alicia if you are in her area, or to the appropriate APEX Accelerator if you're in one of the areas in between. Tomorrow we are hosting a CMMC training, Intro to CMMC. If anyone is interested in that, Jennifer will drop the link to that in the chat, so you're welcome to hop on in and sign up. If if you're interested or you're starting to get into more of the defense-based contracting. I wanted to thank you all for taking the time to join today. I know it's hard to step away from your businesses to learn, but we're happy to be working with you. Our speakers today from the Corps of Engineers are Jeanette and Enshané, and we will turn it over to them. And thank you both very much for being here.
Hello, everybody. Thanks again for taking time out of your busy schedules to join myself and Jeanette as we do our presentation, and we'll get our slides up here pretty soon. There you go.
Can you see them?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
that's perfect. There you go. Thank you. So we are from the Seattle District Army Corps of Engineers, and I am Enshané Nomoto, the small business professional here in the district. And Jeanette is a contract specialist for the district. She is an acquisition professional. She is very well versed, not just with small business. She's been a wonderful help to me to give me insight on what's going on with the procurement that are happening in the district, but also with emergency management services here in the district. And she's had boots on the ground, so she's a wealth of information. I'm excited that she could join us today as well. If you can kind of see on the slides here, this is just some of the work that we do. I don't know if anyone can identify the dam that's on the first slide here. If you're in Spokane, I believe this dam might be a little closer to you than our North Olympic folks. I believe that is Albany Falls Dam, and that's one of the dams that we have under our jurisdiction. If I'm wrong, feel free to call me out. I've yet to visit.
I'll
So
call you out. It's in my backyard.
it's in your backyard. Okay, so I'll go through our programs as a district, and then we can actually go to the next slide here on the agenda. I'll do the district overview, and then we'll talk a little bit about well, not a little bit, we'll talk a lot about our emergency management, and Jeanette will be able to walk you through just her process as she works with emergency procurement, give you guys some insight on how we do that work here. And then I've got some links, a little bit of news that might interest those of you who are thinking about or have been working with us through our disaster support services, and then just our contact information. So during the presentation, feel free to ask any questions. We're going to keep this as organic and informal as possible. Don't hesitate to ask whatever questions you might have. Okay, next slide. All right, so this is a pretty standard map that we provide to folks regarding our area of responsibility for Seattle District, and it's pretty wide. We are a full service district, right? So that basically means that we provide not only civil works engineering support, but we're also involved in military construction and environmental protection and improvements. And I'll do a rundown of the major programs. But if you can see just the swath of land that we cover, and then all the little kind of regulatory boundaries, the civil works boundaries, and then the military boundaries. You see that military boundary actually goes all the way around Washington State. You even have Oregon, you have Idaho, and you have Montana, because we have bases there that are under our jurisdiction. So 19 congressional members that we do report to. You know, if you have issues or concerns, or if you want to give us praise, you can always reach out to those congressional members and let them know how you feel about the work that we provide in your district. I'm not sure if you've heard recent news, but we are held accountable by Congress. And just recently in Little Rock District, the commander of that Army Corps of Engineers was let go over some real estate disputes that have been ongoing. So your Congress members really hold us accountable, and that comes from you, the public. So don't think that your input isn't um, taken seriously. It really is. We also cover 50 federally recognized tribes, and we work with them with their tribal lands in cultural restoration and water access and water rights. We have a tribal liaison in each district that works directly with those tribes as a liaison between Army Corps and those individuals to make sure that their needs and their concerns are heard and met. 6 flood risk reduction dams. That includes, and there's a slide after this, and I can go over that. 3 hydropower dams. And we have the busiest lock in the nation. I don't know if anyone has ever visited Seattle, but Lake Washington Ship Canal is where you can find the Ballard locks. And it is busy, 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 because it is really the gateway to the Pacific Northwest for many different vessels, and it is open to the public. You can come and visit. It's actually where our commander lives, which is kind of cool. And it's a recreational site too, so you can actually have visits. It's right smack dab in the middle of Seattle, which keeps the city a really interesting place to visit. Next slide. Okay, let's see, we get our next slide. Oh, there we go. Civil Works program. That's the first. This is what, like I said, this is what makes us a full service district, because some districts don't do all the work that we do. So it's operating projects, 99,000 square miles that we cover, and 4,700 miles of shoreline that we're responsible for. Boundaries include the Columbia River system, upstream of the Yakima River, and most of eastern Washington, northern Idaho, western Montana, all the way up to the Continental Divide. Oh, yeah, thank you. I got the okay, I got the dam right. Thanks for that comment, Alicia. Also, within the program, there's also ecosystem restoration, flood risk management, hydropower, navigation, channel maintenance, recreation, permitting. So folks can conduct work, on those certain bodies of water. They have to get permits to do that. So we have a special office that provides those, and water resource sustainability, because, we all want clean water. And I'll highlight the slide here. Like I was mentioning before, Lake Washington Ship Canal. That's at the Ballard Locks. Really cool place to visit, and that's where our commander lives. No, you can't go up to her house. It's very highly protected, but you could see it, and maybe you can see her dogs running around every once in a while. Then Mud Mountain Dam and Howard Hanson Dam. If you're aware of recent, just kind of the funding talk coming from Congress, some of that funding, we had awarded a massive contract, I believe back in early 2025, almost $250 million dollar program, and a portion of that was the program was awarded a portion of that funding we were waiting for, and then it got cut off. So there was work that was supposed to happen at Howard Hanson that got held up, that just got released thanks to our Congress members, and we've got people going to work as we speak to start this massive project with the Howard Hanson Dam for flood mitigation. And basically, it keeps the cities of Kent and some other cities from going underwater. So we appreciate that. We have 5 dams total, 3 of which are hydropower projects, and they produce 3,000 megawatts of electricity, and that's more than enough power to keep the Seattle metro area running. That's 4.5 million people and their households and beyond. That's located at UC Albany Falls, Libby Dam, and Chief Joseph Dam. Those are our hydropower projects, right? So flood risk management, as I mentioned before, is Howard Hanson Dam off of the Green River, Mud Mountain Dam off of the White River. That's in Western Washington. Libby Dam on I think I pronounced this right, Kootenai River. You can check me on that one as well, in Western Montana. And Albany Falls Dam. Oh gosh, I never like to try and pronounce this one. Pendoril. Okay, somebody else can pronounce this for me.
Ponderay.
Ponderay. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I
You're
will
welcome.
remember that forever. I don't think I've ever said it out loud because I've been too embarrassed to try. Well, there you go. That's why. That's in northern Idaho. So there you go. So you can see, like I said, the pictures there. Grays Harbor is another really big project that's recently been in the news. I saw really good coverage on one of the local news stations here in Washington on the Grays Harbor project. We're putting out a study. I think that the solicitation for work there closed, and that's just getting the jetties the jetty system rebuilt up there because there's been a lot of erosion. That's a big project. Yeah, that solicitation just closed. So that's, the massive civil works portion of our work. Next slide. It's all right, we'll get there.
Did it load?
Not yet. I think we went back one. We need to go forward 2. Let's see, military. There we go. All right, so really quickly, our military construction program is basically to design and build for the Army Reserves, and the Air Force. Our district includes JBLM, and that's Joint Base Lewis McChord, Mountain Home Air Force Base. Mountain Home is that Idaho? And then Malmstrom is in Montana. Been there several times. We've got a huge project coming up there for our missile defense systems. We just had an industry day on that last week. Lots of people came to visit. Yakima Training Center, Umatilla Chemical Depot. We have real estate services for the Army and the Air Force. We have recruiting facilities. We give technical services for other armed services as well by request, and they pay us to do that. So we get paid through several different agencies to do work on their behalf. Next slide. Well, it looks like we have a question. We are a small engineering firm. We won the Innovation Award in a competition organized by USBR, USACE. Wow. Okay. Yeah, you want to contact. I have my contact information at the end of this presentation, so we can start there if anyone else. But feel free to leave your information in the chat. Not only is this networking for me, it's also networking for you all as well. Okay, so the next is our environmental program, covering cleanup, compliance to reduce risk and protect human health. We've got huge projects right now going on for PFAS. That's been a considerable concern on our military bases, just with all the things that have built up through the years that we thought were, hey, no problem. You want to put fuel in the ground and then have people live on top of it? Sure, why not? So we're in the process of cleaning up a lot of that now, and a lot of our industry partners are helping us do that. That's a really growing component of our work, and a lot of money is going into that. It's surprising how much of our funds are going towards environmental cleanup now. And a lot of that is in tandem with the EPA. So we work a lot with them, and that brings up the interagency and international support function of our mission, IIS. We give technical assistance to non-DoD agencies, including the National Park Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, the VA. We've done seismic retrofit for their buildings. We have a lot of earthquakes out here. National Guard, Department of Energy, you name it. We've helped, and we have some of those listed at the bottom as our major partners. I'll also mention that we are the technical center of expertise for the preservation of historic buildings and structures. So that's not just Seattle district area of responsibility, that's nationwide. And there is a law that dictates how we go about renovating and preserving our historic buildings, our historic vessels, our cultural landscapes, and that's called the National Historic Preservation Act. So we have a wealth of knowledge in this district, and individuals who have great experience and credentials to assist project managers, cultural resource staff, internally as well as in other federal agencies across the country. So I believe it's called TCX, and we're located here. See if we have any other questions. Nope. Okay, next slide. Okay, now we're getting into the nitty gritty. We're going to talk a little bit about our main NAICS codes. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with what NAICS codes are. I mean, some folks are very well versed with governmentese and others are not. But if you put together, say you put together a capability statement, which is one of the first ways that you introduce yourself to the federal government. We call it a line card or a capability statement. Sorry, I'm fiddling with my mic. And the APEX is a wonderful resource to get help in putting that together. Because if you call me and you say, hey, I want to do business, well, the first thing I'm going to ask for is your capability statement. And when I look at your capability statement, I want to see your NAICS codes. And I know people pronounce that several different ways. When I came up as a procurement, staff in the Air Force, it was NAICS, but some people call it NACS and whatever. But this is how we identify what work you do and what category you fall in, whether or not you're a small business or whether or not you're a large business. It's based on your revenue or the number of people and staff you have. And in these particular NAICS, these are primarily what we use here at the Corps of Engineers. And the ones that are highlighted, as you can see, are the ones that we use specifically for emergency acquisition. So obviously, crushed and broken stone, highway and street construction, heavy civil engineering, that just in general, the 237-990s, 236-220, that is our bread and butter here at the Corps of Engineers. And remediation, that's the environmental components, and then rental supplies and things like that. So let me actually go here. In addition to our MILCON hydropower environmental work, We have a huge mission of emergency management readiness, response, recovery under our emergency management services or emergency operations. And I'm assuming that's why you're here today. So within the authorities provided to us, which is often through FEMA, we'll explain that on the next slide. Jeanette will explain that on the next slide. We can provide additional assistance when problems exceed the capabilities of local and state agencies. Okay, so this slide covers those primary needs. We solicit across the board around the country. We really want to prioritize our local vendors, and that's why we're here to let you know that we're always interested in what you have to provide, and there is a way for you guys to get involved. And that's what Jeanette is going to explain to you today. We have a readiness response team for emergency management organization, for planning, for training, for maintaining supplies. We have an inspection program for levees. We send people out to look even at non-federal flood control structures to monitor the status of the levees and notify levy sponsors of potential concerns. So we do all of that work, but we do need you as our industry partners to help us do that. So with this next slide, I'll turn it over to Jeanette so she can explain a little bit more about emergency management services in her role.
We did get 2 questions in the chat. It looks like
Okay.
Justine went ahead and answered one of them, which we can definitely help with. One of them says,
Awesome.
should we be concerned if we do not see our NAICS codes?
I'll take that one.
Go ahead.
When you guys are looking at NAICS codes, you might have a primary NAICS code, but it's important that if there's other things that you can do, like I will give you a prime example, that crushed rock NAICS, that top one on the slide before, you might not be a quarry, but you know what? If you're a construction company, you have a dump truck, you could go to the quarry and get that gravel that we might need. So it would be smart to include that NAICS as far as your primary. So you have to kind of think outside the box when it comes to NAICS. Another example is let's say that you provide fuel. You have a truck and you can do fuel. Well, that when we put a NAICS cat out there, you're not a manufacturer of fuel, but we cannot use any NAICS that starts with a 4. It's against the law for us to do that. And so we're going to put like fuel, like diesel, gas, we're going to put it under the manufacturing of diesel and fuel, which might not make sense to you, but that's how our things are going to come from. So you got to kind of think outside the box and NAICS, and you might have that specialty that you do. And the slide before just gave you a mere touch of those were the ones that generally go out, but sometimes we get some really difficult requirements that do have these specialty NAICS in it. So that would be my advice on NAICS on there. And let's see, what was the other question?
Because if we provide solar power, off-grid refrigeration, useful for feeding staff workers, medical, which NAICS codes would be best for us to use? But Justine responded to that. We'll schedule a meeting with the individual and we'll go through what NAICS codes fit them. There's another question that says, does battery energy storage systems fall under environmental?
Not necessarily. If we had a requirement for like, let's say we had a building away from an energy source, we might need solar power and it might need that battery storage system as part of that. That wouldn't be an environmental thing. That would be a requirement for solar power of a facility or a building that's outside the grid of energy. So not necessarily, but maybe.
Thank you. And then the next one's just a comment. It just says, we have NAICS codes, but we want to catch the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers attention. So Estella, we can go through that, or your advisor can go through that with you to make sure that you have the ones that you need to have that fit your business to contract with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. All right, I'll hand it back over to you.
And
Okay.
just to, I'm sorry,
Well,
Jeanette, just one
no,
more
go ahead.
thing.
Yeah.
Thanks. Just to piggyback off of that, it's really important that you make a counseling session with your Apex. A lot of folks are just like, well, I emailed, and make a counseling session so they can sit down with you, go through your, your business, take a look at what really is a great way not only to structure your capability statement, but also how to tailor your market research to figure out what your niche is going to be, which agencies you can work best with. That is their role. That's what they do for us, and we are very appreciative of that. So before you come to us with these questions, the APEX, we provide funding for the APEX to do that work on our behalf so they can help you put your best foot forward when you come to us. That's it. Thanks, Jeanette.
Excellent point. Okay, so emergency acquisitions. You all probably are aware that the government's port of entry for solicitations is sam.gov. And so that's where you look, where we're looking for sources sought. We're giving pre-solicitation notices out. We're giving solicitation notices out. But emergency acquisitions is a whole different ballpark. We have flexibilities that allow us to do a lot of skipping and a lot of shortcuts. So the most important thing to know is solicitations are not posted on sam.gov. If we have an emergency, you will never see anything on sam.gov. That takes too long for us. And the other thing to be aware of is that contracts are awarded without providing full and open competition in most cases. In other words, we have a levee break. We need to do construction immediately. And although we do try to look for those small businesses, if there is a large business that's literally 2 miles down the road, we might hit them up. Urgency is important, but I will tell you from the Seattle District's viewpoint, we really do look for those small businesses. We appreciate the small businesses. We want the small businesses. But if something comes up and we can't achieve it via a small business, we don't have time to go look for a small business. We will go where we know we can be successful in the most expedient time frame. All right. And then the other thing to know is purchases not exceeding the simplified acquisition threshold can be solicited from one source under certain circumstances. Again, if we have a breach, we need immediate work done. We know somebody, we're going to probably call them, right? It's got to be quick. So the key on your end is getting yourself recognized for us before a event occurs. Now, how we are allowed to do this, or when we can do this, there's two types of emergency declaration. One is Public Law 8499. And that one is declared by our district commander. And what that one is that's flood fight. So there's a public law that says Corps of Engineers, you're in charge of flood fights. And there are levees that are in our levee system, but there's also levees outside of our outside of our levee system. But we're responsible in emergency flooding. We're responsible for all those levees. We're responsible to get the work done. But the difference is we work with our partners. So if it's a public law 8499 and it's a disaster declared by our district commanders, we are not the lead. We are to assist our partners. So for example, the breaches on the Green River and the White River in December, King County was the lead. It was their levees. They were the leads. But we were there to assist. We provided the HESCOs. We provided engineering knowledge. We provided walking HESCOs and looking for issues. So we were in support. And oftentimes when it's under there, we're in support of it. With the district part, or with the water districts, with the county, with the state. Those are usually the leads in those situations. When it comes to major disaster declaration, it's something declared by the president. That's something that activates FEMA. If FEMA is activated, then we have missions. There's many emergency missions in the Corps of Engineers. Water is one, temporary power is one, infrastructure is one, debris removal is one. Those types of things, when we get something from, we get a FEMA mission, then we're in charge. We are the ones who make the plans, bring the contractors in, and that kind of thing. Now, when I say bring the contractors in, we do bring the contractors in at the Public Law 8499 as well. But in those instances, we often are working with our partners and making those decisions together. If it came from a FEMA mission, we are the lead and we will take care of them from there. So there's the two different things on there. And FAR Part 18 is what we use when we're utilizing emergency acquisitions. And so if you're ever curious on the shortcuts that we can legally do, that's the part of the FAR that we follow. Any questions? Okay, next slide. So how do you get notice? Because again, I said the importance is that you're noticed before the emergency. Right there, senators hold bipartisan meetings. Let's see. I didn't do this. Can you speak on this one, Enshané, that first one? I know you added that one.
Yeah. I added some news, some helpful links for you guys to kind of run down most recent news in regard to disaster response. And one of the things that they're actually talking about is getting rid of FEMA or defunding it, changing it significantly. If you're interested in disaster response, might want to keep your eye on the ball regarding what's coming down the pike with this, I don't know, this movement within Congress. Maybe reach out to your Congress people, give your input while they make these decisions. That's all. So I'll turn it back over to you, Jeanette.
Okay, so let's talk about getting you on the list or getting you recognized. There's two ways to go about it. One is there is a national disaster response registry. If you sign up on this registry, you are nationwide, where they can take a look at your capability statement and if they need it. Now, if you say, but I'm not interested in nationwide, why does that make a difference? Here's why it makes a difference. I don't know if you guys have heard of Cascadia event, but a Cascadia event is the major earthquake that'll hit all the way from Washington State down to California, possibly. If a Cascadia event occurs, Omaha district now becomes basically Seattle district. They're the ones that are going to pick up that work. And so you're local, but if you're not on this national database, they may not be aware of you because they're going to that national database. Seattle district, in a sense, is going to be wiped out on what we can provide, what communications we have, that kind of stuff. So our local database is probably will not even be looked at or even considered. So that's something to consider on there. So that's what that is the National Database Registry. And what you do is on that link, it has that contractor capability statement. This is when you go to the Defense Disaster Registry, they're going to ask you for your capabilities form. Enshané talked to you about your capabilities form. So that's the form that you do. And like I said, I cannot stress enough. You are a construction company, for example. You can still provide the rock and the gravel. Or when it comes to emergencies, we don't have time to get a lot of contracts go together. So let's say that you, again, are that construction company. We might reach out to you going, hey, we need some pumps. We need some generators. The contract's already in place. And so when you get these contracts, we call you up and we award this contract. You might have 27 line items on your contract on absolutely anything we think we will need to repair a levee. And so you might not have even in that wheelhouse thought, oh my gosh, yeah, I can make that call to a rental agency. Now, there are times where we do have contracts that are in place, IDIQs in place. So we pre-do these things. And so all we have to do is cut task orders. If you're talking about FEMA missions, every FEMA mission has IDIQs in place. And so it's just a matter of cutting task orders. So that is one thing to be aware of. But when it comes to local emergencies, oftentimes we look for people that we know are in the local areas that can rally as quickly as possible. And so that's how do you get known on our local ones? That is by reaching out to Emergency Contracting Seattle District, that very last tagline, CENWS-EOC. If you email them and let them know that your capabilities state, here's my capabilities, I am interested in getting into your local registry. That is how you get it done. That's how you wave the flag. That's how you shoot your hands. I can do this kind of stuff. Now, the line above it, I want to put emphasis on this. If you do make it on our registry, if we email you, we need immediate response. Again, this is an emergency. So if you're a company who can do remediation and we have, let's say we have soil, like that was a big thing at the wildfires in California is the soil contamination, right? So let's say that you are a remediation company and you know how to handle tinted soil. We're going to say, we need quote now. And it is a quote. We need a quote now. We try to put something out to utilizing the rule of two. Again, we don't have to. We can go sole source, but we do try to utilize our small businesses. We do try to do the rule of two. But if you get that urgent email and you don't respond, you go off the database immediately. Even if it's just say, hey, I'm working on it to acknowledge it. But that is a very, very, very important thing. We cannot wait for you. So that's just something to kind of put in the back of your head. Having those quarry, again, let's go back to those rocks, gravel, having those, those quarry handshakes where the quarries, you kind of know the pricing. And it's not like in an hour, but usually a day. Like we need something in a day. If it's something like we need in an hour, we will do sole source, but like we still try to play within the rules, very much so. But just sometimes we can't. You have to understand it. But if you are in and on our map, see those regions: Libby Dam, Grays Harbor, Whatcom County. If you're somebody who's in those areas and you have these capabilities, let us know. Let us know, because we are always looking for. We want to see that competition. Because that's good for us, that's good for you. But understand in emergency situations, if we don't get an immediate response, we're going to move right past you on there. I think that's it for me. Does anybody have any questions on that part of it? Oh, okay. I see the one. How do we stay on top of emergency declarations? Listen to the news. That's really the best way I can tell you, right? Listen for the events.
I also put the link there for at least the Army Corps disaster emergency operations
Yeah, center.
website, because that at least gives you for our region, the local, and that's Seattle districts.
Yes.
Every district has their own. So you can stay on top of your state, local, and federal, like USACE or FEMA. But if you're on that registry, and they need help, you might get a phone call, but you can always reach out
Mhm.
to the email specifically for Seattle district. You have it at the bottom and say, "Hey, I can do this work," and they will triage if they need you, and they will reach out to you.
Yeah, and there's if you're down in like the Harbor area, there's Portland District. If you're in Eastern Washington, there's Walla Walla District. So we're talking specifically to Seattle District, but if you're close to these other districts, reach out to their EOCs as well, because I can tell you they do the same thing we do. It's quick, it's fast, it's rapid. If we've identified you, we're going to go to you. We don't have time to identify.
That's also something, excuse me, that you can do with your Apex Accelerator. When you set up those one-on-one advising sessions, we can work with you to help show you the best places to look for or to stay up on top of emergency declarations. We can also get you signed up for bid match, which not necessarily emergency declarations would come through, but other opportunities would, and we can help you get on your calendar kind of a steady stream of times for you to check weekly once you're comfortable knowing where to go to look, so that you just have a calendar reminder telling you, hey, I need to spend the next 50 minutes of my day hopping on to see if there's anything that I can apply for or reach out that I'm interested in.
I am going to add one other thing. Now, I talked about the pre-disasters and those IDIQs that are in place. Those will be listed on SAM.gov, right? We're trying to get things in place as quickly as possible. So if you like, sometimes you'll see things for blue roof, you'll see things for debris removal. So if those IDIQs are in place pre-disaster, then those will go out for SAM.gov. I am talking about we had a levee breach today. We want to find our contractor today, or if not, at least the first thing. So I do want to make that clear.
Good point. And I think we've got a lot of links in the chat for folks to favorite and take a look at, with tons of information on how to get in touch with local districts. And on each of those districts page, you have their small business websites as well. But first and foremost, if you're registered in SAM.gov, you can also be registered in the nationwide disaster response registry. Work with your Apex Accelerator if you want to figure out what your market is going to be, what locations you might be able to work. And you can also get on those local USACE district emergency management databases. Okay, so do we have any other questions for Jeanette?
The only other question that was in the chat was based upon location. So I gave the individual the location map that was on her
Thank
website.
you. Thank you. And maybe if we have a little extra time, I don't know, maybe we can navigate like the contractor's capability form or one of these links here, if that's what folks just kind of want to see. Let's just go on to the next slide, and I can kind of take us back to just how we've been doing as a district, and how it might concern you as a small business. For FY25, our fiscal years begin in October 1st to September 30th. So it doesn't always line up with the state or local fiscal years, but the federal fiscal year always starts off in October. And that's when you see if there's a shutdown, it starts in October because that's when our money is supposed to drop. So for FY25, you see our achievements here in Seattle District and how much money we actually spend just overall on all of these programs we introduced to you and more. 609 million was our spend last fiscal year. It's a little bit lower than what we accomplished in FY24. And we had so many large projects that didn't get awarded yet. So we had expected it to be a lot bigger, closer to $1 billion. And we may or may not reach that this fiscal year. But within that, our small business obligations were 45% of that 609 million. And, we're very serious. And this doesn't even include emergency management services because we normally don't track that information because it doesn't go into sam.gov, and especially for the lower dollar stuff. And so 193 million for small disadvantaged business and veteran owned. We did really well with 39 million. That's service disabled veteran owned. That's a specific category within the veteran owned categories. And 6.4%. We've done better in previous years, closer to 10%. And we're trying to, continue to reduce the barriers for folks to get noticed and to get awards, specifically in the last three categories. Women-owned small business, we've done phenomenally well compared to previous years at 5.5% of that 600 million. $33 million went to women-owned small businesses. And then Hub Zone, if you're located in an economically disadvantaged area or your businesses or your employees, a certain percent of your employees are located in that area, you can be registered as a hub zone. And those last three categories, you can actually get sole source opportunities. Just know with the 8A program, there are some pending changes coming down the pike. You want to stay abreast of the news. They may do away with the sole source option, but what is it? Competitive 8As aren't going away. So just rest assured that that's not going anywhere. Next slide. No, it looks like we have it. If you're in clown, oh, okay. Yeah, if you're in clown, yes. And that's really important for you guys because it might be applicable. And a lot of folks will say, well, it's not like I see a lot of hub zone set asides. Well, if we get enough capable hub zone responses to our sources SOTs, and this is outside of emergency management, when we post something and we get enough hub zones that respond and we determine that they're capable, that's why that capability statement is really important, even though it does behoove us for a lot of our requirements to reach out and make sure that you guys are capable. We could do set asides, and when you respond, ask for it. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but you can say, this area is a significant, hub zone area. How about doing a hub zone set aside? That it doesn't hurt for you to promote that in your responses to us. Okay, so we're kind of down to the last few slides. Just general advice here for businesses that want to generally do work for Army Corps. Get engaged like you are today. And it's really great that you're investing the time because it's really what it is. It's time investment. A lot of the services that small business and APEX provide are free, but there is definitely a time investment on your part, and that does mean money for you as well. So we appreciate the efforts that you're putting forth and trying to put your best foot forward to work with us. Understand for each requirement that you see on the street, the level of small business involvement that you anticipate, whether that's, that's probably going to go unrestricted because I don't see a lot of small businesses involved in that line of work, or the other way around, specifically for us, you might be interested in subcontracting opportunities, but it's dredging. And with dredging, it's not really work that is subcontracted out. So really understand the market, understand the work that we do as you get into this field. Small business commitment document really applies to our large or our prime vendors. In Seattle District, we do not require small businesses that act as primes to submit a small business commitment document in their proposals. That is not the case for every district. So if you do submit a proposal, there are some districts that require you as a small business as well to explain how you're going to utilize small businesses. So if you need help or familiarity with how to put something like that together, work with your Apex. They also do proposal, evaluations and things. I don't know if it's evaluation, but they help you kind of understand what the proposal is saying and what you need to do to try and get that together. Subcontracting plans are required from large businesses or other than smalls for requirements over it's not the simplified acquisition threshold, it's a threshold specifically for subcontracting plans. Now it's 900,000, that just changed. So if you are submitting a proposal for over 900,000 and you are a large business, you will be required to explain to us how you're going to utilize small businesses and the percentages you're going to give each category. That is mandated federally. SAM.gov, obviously, you know about. FPDS is a system that some people know about. I've noticed a lot of people don't. It's a great way to utilize for to use market research information to figure out what your niche is, to understand which agencies are doing what in the NAICS codes, who you might be able to target to do work with. You can see pretty much every acquisition that was made, the contract action reports of those acquisitions on FPDS, really kind of detailed information, and the Apex can help you navigate that site so you can see, which company is getting the most work for this agency and, how much was that work? And, what are the most what agencies are using 236220 the most, the construction NAICS? That's how you can kind of mine that data, and Apex can help you. It's a lot simpler than you think. USA spending is more on how much the agencies are using. They make pivot charts. You can do all kinds of stuff with that. I personally am not very good with USA spending, but the Apex, they are, and that's why they're there. So you can also do your market research and have them assist you as well. Build your relationships. SBA Subnet is what a lot of companies, a lot of primes go on to solicit subcontractors. So take a look at that across the country. FPDS, once again, also request agency info on recent awards with the subcontracting plan. You can do that with your Apex. They can look up that information using the contract action reports and things like that. Request assistance to source small businesses. If you're a prime, they can also help you kind of source that information. And also understand that prime large businesses that have subcontracting plans have an obligation to be good faith prime contractors and working with their subs. And all of those requirements are listed in FAR Part 19. You see the citation there. You could see listed out what those prime contractors are responsible for in managing their subcontracts and their subcontractors. So if you're interested, take a look at that. And there are still ESRS reporting requirements, but now the system has migrated to SAM.gov. So if you have a subcontract, you have to utilize it within SAM.gov. And nobody really knows how that system works right now because it's so new. But it is now there, and we're all just figuring it out together. So I go to the next slide here, and I think that's just my contact information. The best way to initially contact me is through email. You had previously the emergency management team's contact information. That's really if you're just saying, look, I can do work, I can do it. And Jeanette, can you clarify for me, do those vendors have to be registered in SAM to be able to do work with Army Corps and emergency services?
Yes, we do require it. There, if you read FAR Part 18, there is an exception for contingency contracting. What we do is not considered contingency emergency. So yes, we do want, you should be registered in SAM.gov. Couple other things to kind of tie on the last slide is one, industry days. Let's say you don't want to be that big boy, but by attending those industry days, you'll start making contacts with those primes to be considered to be a subcontractor, getting your capability statement to those people. So that's a really, really good source to do it. And then I know that the APEX gals will tell you this, but anytime, if you think you're reaching out to APEX, there are some really bad actor websites out there, and they're going to want you to think that they are the APEX centers. Anytime they ask for money, walk away. This is all free, free, free. And I cannot tell you how many times in my career I've had a small business say that they need to make a change, or I'll reach out to a small business and they need to make a change to their SAM profile, and they can't because they paid for somebody to manage their SAM profile, and now they want money to make that change. Well, if you want to get rid of, if you're part of that and you want to get rid of those bad actors, you have to sign up all new. So you'll get a new cage code, you'll get a new EIN, and your APEX people can help you. But if someone's asking for money, walk away.
Thank you, Jeanette. That's a really good point. And I guess we'll just close it out by saying, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for vendors to get their foot in the door. And, the email address where we triage these vendors during a disaster response, that's now available. You also have some helpful websites to just give you insight into our process and our programs. Obviously, that takes a little more time to go through, but right there, when in doubt, reach out. The APEX can help you. They can give you, those nuggets of, wisdom on how to pivot or how to position yourself so that you catch our eye and you can catch other agencies' eyes. So with that, we will.
Well, actually, I thought of one more thing. I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I'm sorry.
Jeanette.
I thought of one more thing. So another thing, there is an executive order. We cannot pay with Treasury check anymore. So if you do not have your banking information in SAM.gov, reach out to your APEX people and make sure your banking information is in there. Don't reach out to contracting. We don't want to know your banking information, right? So reach out to them. But here's the other important thing. Corps of Engineers is unique to any other agency. We have our own financial management system. So just because your banking is in SAM.gov, good for you. You may get awarded a contract, but you may get a contract specialist reaching out to you going, hey, we don't see you registered in our financial system. It's Corps of Engineers financial system, CFUMS. Do not send your banking information to us. A lot of times I'll get an email going, but all my banking information is in SAM.gov. Well, because our system is outside of the normal system, you do need to get your banking information to Millington, which is our payment center. Your contract specialist can work with you to do that. One of the first things I would do is if you get awarded a contract, ask the question if your contract specialist didn't ask the question. Are you in SAM or are you in CFUMS? We can look. My thing is I immediately look and see if you're in CFUMS. And I will, when I send that award out, I'll let you know, hey, there's a email that you can do to connect with our financial system. Again, don't send it to the contract specialist. We don't want your banking information, but I don't want delays in payments, especially as small businesses. Be aware, Corps of Engineers require you to be in our CFM's Corps of Engineers Financial Management System. So even though your banking information is on sam.gov, you still need to make sure it's in our system as well. Over.
Thank you. And yeah, unfortunately, you have a lot of agencies that don't particularly jive to one payment system. And it is what it is, but that's always an important question to ask if you get an award or if you're contemplating proposing, how was payment, how would I get paid? Okay, so I think that's it from us. And I don't think we have any additional questions, but if there's any helpful insight or anything else that you'd like to put in the chat, that would help us. And let us know how we can serve you better in our presentations. But otherwise, I hope this was really helpful information for everybody, and I thank you again for your time.
I've got a question.
Go ahead, Mark.
Sure.
Hi, how are you? First of all, I want to thank you for putting on this presentation. And I came in, and this really wasn't addressed in here. So my wife and I are the owner of a maritime security company, as well as what we call sand security on the land, entry control point or perimeter. Seeing that the Army Corps of Engineers have the largest Navy in the United States, I was wondering if the Army Corps of Engineer contracts out for either maritime or entry control point or perimeter security.
So I can answer that.
Go ahead, Jeanette.
We do on occasion. I've never seen on water. I've never seen maritime, but we do on occasion do put out a security contract. However, I do have to be honest with you. Seattle District's kind of going away from those standalone security contracts. Chief Joe Dam used to have one for many years. And we've recently hired in-house because we were having a really hard time with companies even bidding. It was a struggle every year. We ended up having to go with a joint venture, trying to stay within that small business realm to get it to happen. So we walked away. However, I do know that Walla Walla District does have some of those standalone security contracts as well. So yes, the answer is yes. We do have them. Seattle District, not so much anymore, but I do know other districts do. And that's not to mean that we won't ever go back to them. We do have contracts with local law enforcement, of course, but we do have those standalones. Like I said, Chief Joe Dam was a primary one. So we don't currently have one, but that's not to mean that we won't go back to them. So keep an eye on it. And the only reason why I know Walla District is looking at getting one is because they asked me for all my information for the one that I did with Chief Joe Dam. So I do know that Walla Walla District is looking to put something together.
It looks like Dawn may also have a question. Dawn, you want to unmute yourself and go for it?
I did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question. This question is based on energy. I understand that the disaster and the need for energy when power is down and electricity is in question. My partner and I, he's on the line, he's recording it right now, have a clean energy business, and we handle battery energy storage systems. And we're trying to do more business with the federal government. And I understand that part of the federal government is moving towards oil and gas. But in regards to this particular division, is it an opportunity for us to bid on different contracts that are available for like battery energy storage systems and trying to connect to the grid and help certain areas to be supported by certain electricity and power?
I mean, yes. I mean, we're always looking for this, but I will tell you, districts, USACE districts wide, not so much per se. And the reason why I say per se is a lot of times we're going to go to GSA first. The FAR does require us to take a look at contracts that are already in place before we do our own standalones. Right. And GSA has massive battery storage, clean energy, solar power, massive, massive contracts that way. So, I mean, honestly, take a look at what the schedule on GSA, and I think APEX can probably help you do that. And take a look
Yes.
at what it takes to get a contract with GSA. We're being pushed more and more and more to go to GSA eBuy on our contracts with the reimagine of the FAR. That is a big push. Like, why are we creating our own contracts when other agencies have contracts out there that we can utilize? And I
Right.
do know when we were looking at putting battery chargers at all our project offices with the prior administration, we were working with GSA. We weren't even intending to put out our own contract, only because GSA has massive contracts in place for that kind of thing.
So you say we need to go to GSA bid, right?
No, oh yeah. So you can go to GSA bid to
Yeah.
see what GSA is out there. But what I'm saying is maybe take a look at getting a scheduled contract. So
on in the chat, Jeanette, I put in there the
perfect.
GSA e-library link, so they can at least do, I think that's Dawn, you can at least do an initial search to see what's currently on the GSA schedules, to see if
Okay,
there's a
GSE
particular,
library, e-library.
e-library. And you can kind of look up what type of service or supply you might fall under on this schedule. But the Apex, once again, when you're trying to figure out what your niche is as far as NAICS code and which agencies use your services and supplies the most, that's who you work with, because that's market research, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where you're going in and saying, oh, wow, the Department of Energy, they go to GSA, or they do buy these one-off, or DLA.
Okay.
So that's where you want to pinpoint which agencies are buying the most of that. But this is specifically to GSA on the GSA schedule. They do have one-off contracts, but at least you can just kind of do a little digging to see whether or not
All
your
right. Thank you
stuff
so
is on there.
much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
There was another question in the chat. It says, are there any plans to dredge the Nooksack River? We were flooded very bad in the Sumas last month.
Yeah, I put the link to just our media page.
Okay.
To see, just as far as what the current news is on our upcoming projects, what we might have completed. Sometimes I would just say, Google it, Google it, because that might be the fastest way to figure out what's out there in the news regarding our projects, as opposed to going to a district website or anything else. Google it and see what's going on with the Nooksack River.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that, so particularly the Nooksack, because I've been on flood fights there in the past, is we are a partner. We're there to assist those water districts, those cities, and that kind of stuff. So if we don't own, that levy is not on, there's a national levy register. If that levy is not on our national levy register, we rely on our partners to say, hey, Corps of Engineers, raising my hand, I need help doing this kind of thing. So just looking at the Corps of Engineers, you might not find what you're looking for just because we're in the assist role. We're not in the lead role. So that's just something to consider too when you're looking for that kind of stuff. Over.
Seemingly uninterested in affiliation with the United States.
All right. Thank you both. Are there any other questions at this point? Oh, you're on mute.
I was just shaking my head no, because it doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
I'm just beep bopping, just running my mouth.
That.
So I just see that Lang, I think that's his name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. The multiple award schedule, that's the GSA e-library. That is an ongoing solicitation. It never closes. And I think they still have 13 categories on there of different supplies and services. It's like the Amazon for the federal government. Army Corps of Engineers, we are the biggest architectural firm on the planet. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We do help other agencies with everything else, it seems like. But remember, we are an agency. We are also the oldest agency in the United States. We started before the United States was even in existence, 251 years ago, not 250 like the United States. So understand we are an architectural firm before anything else, but we have a vast array of knowledge and depth and insight. And if you ever have questions, you can feel free to contact me. But your Apex has been a wonderful partner in getting the word out there on what we do.
Well, thank you very much. We are so grateful to have your expertise and the partnership and get to learn from you guys today.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Please feel free to follow up. All the contact information is in the chat. We'd be happy to set up one-on-one advising sessions with you or help get you to the correct person if you're not in our area. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you all again soon.